Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Elevate Your Equity podcast, where investors, with a special emphasis on couples, begin, continue, and deepen their journey to financial freedom together using the powerful vehicle of real estate investing to do it. And today, we've got two amazing, incredibly busy guests, Sam and Elizabeth Wilson. Thank you guys for coming on. Great to see you. How are you today?
Doing great. How are you guys today?
Very good. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Good.
Sam and Elizabeth are active investors in self-storage, parking, multifamily apartments, RV parks, and single-family homes. And they host the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate podcast, where they interview real estate experts to give their listeners the tips, tools, and tricks to scale their investment portfolio. Sam has a bachelor's degree in business finance from University of Memphis and holds a real estate license in Tennessee as well. In addition to his years of real estate experience, he also has a diverse background in business ownership, building construction, and management. So again, great to have you guys on the show. We hope that you guys are doing wonderful today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Very much so.
All right, cool. So where we like to usually start off is, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about what you have going on now, and then how you guys got started in real estate investing together.
Go ahead. This is all you.
In February, we became foster parents to 3 kiddos, ages 5, 3, and 8 months then. And so that has pretty much been my role. I also own and manage a laundromat in Memphis. So that's not necessarily real estate related, but so that's my main focus. And then I help Sam out whenever he needs it with anything related to details on real estate things, editing, anything revolving words, etc.
Anything involving words, polishing stuff up, or thoughts, I'll write stuff down.
Making it pretty.
Yeah, and it's a disjointed mesh of just like, can you make this readable and make the punctuation correct and just make me not sound like an idiot?
Yeah. Well, you guys do very well together because your guys' podcast is excellent. So that's good stuff.
Thank you. Thanks, appreciate it.
Now let's back up a little bit. I want to find out more about where you guys' passion with real estate started, when you guys first started learning about it, or maybe one of you guys were the impetus to that. So let us fill us in on that.
We got married in 2010, and I owned a flooring company in Indianapolis. And Elizabeth got married into the entrepreneurial world. She's a heck of a lot smarter than I am, but we grew up without a lot of means, and it was always just, hey, you're going to provide for yourself by just working your rear end off. And we did that. I mean, I did that from a kid onward, owned my own company, and we figured that out. I figured out that, probably also when you learn the hard skills of producing your own income, you never really want to go to work for somebody else. So I really didn't ever. Owned my own company. She married into it, figured out the entrepreneurial world pretty fast. We sold that company in 2012. And then I panicked. I was 30 and I absolutely panicked. It was, I don't know, probably the worst year of my life, minus except for right now, neither of us are sleeping. So
a challenge. I think that you were surprised how selling a business was exciting, but then the what next for entrepreneurs is always, if you don't have, that was a good lesson for us. Just, when you start something, when you end something, you need to have a plan. Otherwise it's like panicky. So definitely panicked, and there you go.
Yeah, panicked. And the funny thing was, we were at that strange confluence that few people rarely achieve, is we had money and time. So it's like, wait, wow. Like if I could go back and like slap myself and be like, dude, just sit down. Don't panic. Take your time. Figure this out. You got money and time, and heck, dude, go enjoy, which we did. We did. We traveled a lot and, saw the world. It was fun. But to speed up and answer your question, I know this is the longest way around the barn, probably potentially.
No
to answer your question, got to ended up moving to Tennessee in a small town near her folks, because it was, again, just trying to figure out, ended up renting a house from your brother that he ended up buying there. And I was like, hey, man, we need a place to just hang our hat for now while we figure out what's next. And I was sitting down one morning, and I had no thoughts of real estate, no aspirations, had never considered it, knew nothing about it. I was sitting down one morning drinking coffee, and I had just kind of heard through my father-in-law that was like, hey, there's a website, because in Tennessee they listed foreclosure auctions back in 2013 on attorneys' websites, because it takes an attorney to foreclose on a property here in Tennessee. And I happened to look, and they were putting the opening bids on these properties. And so I sat down, I was drinking my coffee. It's like 8 or 8:30, and I see this property going up for auction. I'm like, oh crud, that's in like 2 hours. Huh. I see the address, Google Map it. I go, it's only like a mile from here. Go over. I looked at it. I came back home and I go, hey, you mind if I buy a house today? He goes, no, it's fine. And so 2 hours later at the courthouse steps, there was only one other bidder and he only bid it up a couple grand. I bought the house. We flipped it, made a pile of money on it and never looked back.
Wow.
So
Incredible.
yeah.
Wow. So
So-
let me dig into this a little bit because there's a lot of things here, right? Where most of our listeners may not have the ability to think like that, right? What spurred you to get out the door? Was it just like coincidence that you said, oh, this is right? Or I guess all those conversations from your family, and then you saw this opportunity, and like, how did that whole process go when you did the first one? Like, were you trying to piece it together? Was it smooth? How did that all happen?
Well, I mean, my background is in building construction. So I owned a flooring company. So I'd been on more job sites than I care to think about. I've seen houses ground up. I mean, I've been around it since I was little. So being able to evaluate quickly, what's this house need? Not hard. Yeah. Had I ever managed a project like that? No, but I'd managed, 30 guys on projects like that. So it was like, whatever. It's just another giant flooring project at scale. So no, it wasn't smooth, but I mean, we ended up hiring contractors, put a ton of sweat equity in. I swung lots of hammers, but it took us about 90 days from start to, across the finish line and sold, which is pretty quick. I mean, I borrowed some money from some family to get it done as well, just because I think, using leverage, I was opposed to it then, but even so, it was like, yeah, we'll borrow some money and make this all work. And yeah, it was.
So I am not an entrepreneur. I fake one owning my own business, but there's a different spirit for someone who sees an opportunity to make money and willing to risk that. To go to the courthouse with cash in hand to buy a house is not the average person to do. I'm going to look at a house. I don't think, did you even get inside of it? Oh,
I don't think you're allowed to, right?
okay. You
Foreclosure?
looked in the windows.
I looked in the windows.
Yeah.
But I'm saying,
That's right.
that is just who Sam is. That's the reason I own this laundromat. I didn't want to own the laundromat. Sam said, we're going to buy it. This could be a great investment. So that's just part of his DNA. And I've had to learn that investing is costly, but there's also a great reward to that. So I think that's just part. So our conversation about, hey, do you want to buy a house? I've known him long enough to be like, he's not a risky investor. He's a very solid investor. If he sees something, the potential to make money.
Yeah, I was just about to go there because I was going to ask you, like, it was really like we kind of flew over that because Sam's like, hey, you mind if I go buy a house today? What do you think? And like, there's a lot of magic in those conversations because those are conversations that many spouses are not willing or afraid to have. Right. And so I really appreciate that coloring there. Is there anything else you want to add, like in terms of the thought process behind when that first deal was going through?
Hunger. I've always said it, and this goes back to where we started from the beginning. Like when you grow up without means, you grow up hungry. And I don't mean physically hungry. We weren't starved children, but we grew up knowing that we had to work for our next deal. And so I think that removes a lot of the apprehension that maybe a lot of people could feel because you're just like, hey man, you know what? My option is to provide for myself or not. Well, what are we going to do? Like fail? Otherwise I'm be hungry either way. So we better just go do it. Yeah. And of course, Elizabeth, she glosses over the fact that she's incredibly supportive. I mean, that conversation has happened
Lots of times.
lots of times.
Yeah,
Hey,
right.
and I go, sure. Like, wow, thanks.
And not that
Well,
I'm always like, okay. I mean, there's sometimes I'm like,
No. Yeah. You definitely, put
sometimes he listens and sometimes he doesn't.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've learned to listen more than not.
Yeah.
I mean,
if I say no, there's some reason behind it. Then
I can think of one time you said no and I did it. And all I have to say is I regret it.
for years.
Oh, great.
Not because I brought up like, oh my gosh, you didn't listen to me. It was because he did regret it. For
Yeah.
years.
And there's incredible value in a woman's intuition that I just can't have. She had no empirical evidence to say, hey, you shouldn't do this. It was just like, something's off.
Can we dive into that? I know that Sophie is burning to ask another question, but
Yeah.
let's dive into that a little bit. What was that one time where you did, Elizabeth, you said, this doesn't sound good or doesn't sound right to me. And then you ended up regretting it in the end.
It was the second investment with this gentleman, wasn't it? And there's something about it. The first time it just seemed off and you'd want to do it again. And I was just like, yeah, it was your second investment with him, wasn't it?
I don't remember
Yeah, it was the
first
second
or
one.
second.
I can't remember what the first one was.
It was a hard money loan is the short,
Mm-hmm.
the color on it was a hard money loan.
And the first one it did not go incredibly smoothly. And it was just that it's like, why? There's no reason for it. The deal wasn't that good. And I forgot, we had something else going on at the time, but it was just.
Yeah. So I ended up handing this guy a pile of money, then misappropriation of those funds, not used for what it was supposed to be used for. Then ended up having to rewrite the loan terms like 8 times just so they could stay on time with payments. And this wrapped up 2 months ago, finally. And I just ended up giving them a huge discount because I just said, look, man, like, I just want you out of my life. If you can pay this number, I can wave goodbye to you and I will take it on the chin. Yeah, good one, Sam.
That's right. Actually, there is magic in that too. I was going to add before Sophie asks her question, backing up, but when you're carrying around mental baggage, that drags with you, especially for entrepreneurial folks like yourselves, right? Where you're kind of like living off your own metal. And if you're not like doing things to keep your saw sharp, meaning your brain and, what you decide to do and how you prioritize yourself, that mental baggage costs way more than the monetary amount, right?
Yep. Bingo. That's exactly right.
So way to go. Congratulations on that. I know it's difficult, but that's the entrepreneurial journey. So for those listeners that are out there, right, that are listening and trying to find a way to get into either commercial real estate or residential, just keep in mind that your mind is your biggest asset next to your spouse. Right. And if those two are in line and you're able to free them up to operate optimally, you're setting yourself up for success. And it's just a matter of time before you start crushing it. So that's something I wanted to emphasize.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So I wanted to go back because this was something that I want to highlight that was kind of glossed over, Sam, when you said, oh, I was 30, we sold our company. I had, time, financial freedom at that point. But you said that there was panic. And so want to kind of delve into that in terms of can you explain to our listeners what that panic may have been about? Was it being confronted with your success, or was it a shift in what do you do with your life now? Because I don't think that's a problem or a situation that a lot of 30-year-olds encounter. So I'm curious, and I really want to hear more about that too.
Yeah. And to be fair, it was not an enormous amount of money. It wasn't like I could just retire and sail off in the sunset. It was enough that we could have gone for 2 or 3 years and not worked and been just fine, which is plenty of runway, plenty of runway to figure stuff out. Plenty of runway. But why did I panic? Because I was 30. I had no education outside of a high school diploma, never went to college. I didn't know what to do next. I probably didn't have the mind broadened enough to be like, oh, hey, I can do anything I want to do. It was like, okay, I got to figure out a way. And again, coming from a background of what I call just hustling your way to your next paycheck, coming from that background, you go, okay, what am I going to do now to hustle my way to another paycheck, even if it's a paycheck self-generated? And I didn't have those prospects. So I had no idea what to do with my life. And I had no idea where I wanted to live. And it's just like, oh, geez, yeah, all those things.
The fear of not being able to provide. I think that was from a wife's perspective.
Right.
I want to be able to provide. I am not currently providing. I do not know when I'll be providing. Panic.
Sam, I can kind of relate with that because I'm leaving my W-2 job. At the time of this recording, it's early August. I'm leaving my job at the end of the month. And even though we have plenty of runway, there's still, the stream is cut off. So now instead of having a stream flowing into your reservoir, into your lake, now there's a dam, and it's up to you to try to find a way to fill the reservoir up yourself, right? Without that stream coming in, or build other streams, right? And so I can relate with that, but yeah, you're right. I think looking back, it's good knowledge.
Let's actually talk a little bit more about that because, a lot of our listeners are either W-2 or they feel like there's golden handcuffs, some shackles, right? That prevent them from, like you guys said, living off your own metal. So maybe, Sam, you touched upon mindset in terms of what is from the get-go, looking back on your journey, what is the, that entrepreneurial mindset that's going to, take you from zero to where you guys are now?
Yeah. And I think, the idea, the mindset shift being I'm capable of achieving anything I set my mind to, which is not maybe an inherent belief I would have held a decade ago. right? I would have been like, oh yeah, there's people out there making millions of dollars a year and people owning this and owning those companies and that. But all I can do is hope to someday maybe work for those guys or get a job there, or even even coming from an entrepreneurial background, or all I am capable of is the hustle, where it's, again, just going back to the, getting good licks. And I even carried that mindset into flipping houses. I mean, flipping houses is just the same thing but with more zeros attached to it.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we're gonna hustle our way through another house flip, hustle with another house flip, get another paycheck, and just keep doing it over and over and over. And I mean, it took me until the end of 2018 to finally get out of that rut of like, oh, maybe there's other ways to do this. So I don't know if that answers your question or if I'm
Yeah.
just
No, it
wandering
does.
aimlessly.
Absolutely.
It does, for sure. I wanted to ask something too. I wanted to talk about Elizabeth's part of this while this was all happening. Now, how was Elizabeth involved in all of this? Because I know, like, it's easy for Sam to say, yeah, we went out there, we did this, like, you just got to hustle. That's my mentality. But when you're married, there's conversations that happen at home. And let's just face it, you guys, the people that you spend the most time around, that's who you end up becoming. And so you have an influence on each other. So can you guys, maybe Elizabeth, from your perspective, what was this like?
It was a huge learning curve for me. My background is very academic. I have undergrad degrees and master's degrees in environmental science engineering. I love school. I have linguistics degrees. And so having to learn how to live with an entrepreneur was probably the biggest learning curve through the whole process, from beginning married into a business, learning the business side of it, learning construction. I mean,
Yeah.
I would live in a condo if I had my options. I don't want anything to do with house maintenance. That is all Sam. So I had to learn a lot of that. I mean, as far as I did things like had to learn how to bid at the courthouse steps, which was intimidating to begin with, because usually as a woman, you're the only one woman there. It's all men. I had to learn how to help run crews at job sites, again, too. Just huge learning curves constantly. I'm like, I know what a hammer is, and that's about the extent of my construction knowledge. So those are probably the main, at the very beginning, we did not do a good job of hiring people out for tasks that we didn't need to do, such as cleaning out refrigerators. I mean, that's been probably one of the biggest learning curves for us as a whole, just like hiring the VAs, hiring the cleaning crews, hiring someone else. Like, our time is worth so much more as entrepreneurs doing the high level things rather than on my hands and knees scrubbing. Not that I'm not above scrubbing. I've scrubbed many toilets and I've cleaned up many a really gross fridge from, I can't even think about some of those foreclosures.
Oh gosh.
So I think I'm glad to be a part of that. I mean, even with the laundromat, I've worked many hours, many days learning the business. And now I'm able to hire people to do those tasks so I can free myself to stay home and take care of the children and support Sam in other ways.
Yeah, thank you. That's great, Elizabeth. I think that's really important. A lot of people who are entering this field may end up one way or another learning what you just explained, because I think that's just the way that things head. So what I want to do now is let's start talking about real estate again. I mean, we've framed a lot of this with mindset, but what I want to do is I want to try to bring it back to after that first flip that you guys did, and you start to do a couple of things. You started to get the ball rolling. You get your feet dipped into the real estate industry, which, by the way I hear it is that you didn't necessarily do a whole bunch of preparation. You just kind of like acted on it, the opportunity, which is fantastic. I wish that there was more of that in this world, because that's what actually gets things done. Because you can always figure things out later. But anyway, so let's talk about like what happened. How did you guys go from doing that first flip to growing to where you are now? Is there anything you can comment on about that? Because you guys are at a big place right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hustle. I mean, there's a lot of mistakes. It was, again, when I went to the courthouse, I didn't know anything about what I was doing. Is the good Lord have mercy on an idiot? I'm serious, because we did no title search. I could have been the proud owner of a second mortgage.
My
There could have
goodness.
been IRS liens that take 120 days to drop off. There could have been,
Wow.
state, 10 care, which is like the state run health, for low income. There could have been those liens against the property. There could have been, I mean, it could have just been a horrible, horrible, dirty
And
title.
did you take it over via quitclaim?
No, they offer a warranty deed here in
Okay.
Tennessee. Yeah. So it's, and that's, no, it wasn't quit claim, which I've done. Those I'm not opposed, but again, there's reasons for those, but we won't get into that. Yeah. So, once we did that, I'm trying to remember what the question was, but like, how did we get from there to
Yeah.
here?
Mhm.
A lot of just going full out. Like we, in between after that flip, we actually moved to Memphis. So we went from Middle Tennessee to Memphis, which is 4 hours away. And in that period, I mean, number of times I drove back and forth that 4 hour road. Hey, auction tomorrow in Memphis. I'm looking at houses. I've got my sheets. I'm driving around Memphis. I'm getting to know the town. I go to auction, nothing. I go to auction, nothing. I drive back home the next day. I mean, and just making that loop. And I mean, it was, I remember one night it was 9 o'clock at night. I'm rolling into a neighborhood I don't know anything about. I'm driving around, like looking at conditions of houses. Are they occupied? Is the grass overgrown? Are the gutters falling off? Is the roof intact? So I can be ready for the 10 a.m. auction the next morning, and then going to those auctions and talking to people. I mean, that's the other thing. Hey, what's going on? The number of people that said, hey, have you looked at, or I mean, as much as courthouse steps with a bunch of testosterone filled men and millions of dollars trading hands is an intimidating place to be. There was still some helpful people along the way that were like, oh, what I would do is look at this. Yeah, you don't want to do that. I mean, a guy even sat down and said, hey man, you want that house? Just follow me. I'll help you bid. I was like, okay, thanks. And I think just putting yourself in that position, which, I mean, I'll be honest, I probably don't have the steam anymore to repeat those, times. That was a decade ago, but that was a lot of work. I mean, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of dead ends. It was weeks and months of attending auctions every single day. And you got to remember this back in 2013, 2014, when foreclosure auctions were, fairly prevalent here, especially in Shelby County, Memphis. So yeah, it was a lot of that, but it was a lot of like just knowing that we're on the right track too. I mean, so when we started making acquisitions and you started buying stuff, you're like, oh, okay.
That's great, Sam. So that's on the single family side. How did you guys then make the move from single families or residential, doing foreclosures and flips, to then getting into commercial?
2018.
I'll give the short answer.
Go
Go ahead.
Got really tired of adult babysitting contractors.
Wow.
Houses and remodeling and so I guess there's a twofold to that. Sam is brilliant on finances. He ended up going back to school and getting his BS in finance in 24 months.
Yeah.
I mean, he just rocked it. And so that's always his thing. He wanted to use his mind, not his hands, not to be on site, not have to wonder if a contractor is going to show up and mess things up. So I think the combination of those two things, I want to do more with my mind. I can do more. And of course, with all that, it's like, I want to become an investor. With flipping houses, it tends to be almost the same thing as a paycheck. It's like, yeah, you work for 2 months to get a paycheck.
Time equals money.
Time equals money. And so really time value of money, and he can work, use his mind and actually end up making more money without having to deal with some of that. There's still obviously hassles with what he does, but the number of I remember him coming home, I said, I'm just done. I'm done with babysitting contractors.
Yeah. And I think I have like if I have to walk into Lowe's, there is something inside of me. I had to go earlier this week for something, and something inside of me dies every time I walk in. I'm like, oh no, I'm back in Lowe's. I hate this place.
Wow. You and Sophie have a lot in common.
I mean, I'm grateful it's there because obviously,
Right.
they serve a market need, and I'm glad for the availability of it. But there is also some trauma that goes along with it. Like, no, I'm not.
One more screw.
Yeah. So I went to a conference in 2018 and I said, hey, I want to find my next asset class, whatever it is. I want to find it beyond what I'm doing right now. And so that began the slow process. I met a guy there at the conference that was actually investing in parking, and I started learning about parking, bought him drinks at the bar, then ended up flying to Texas to talk to him, and like, just beat his door down. Hey man, I want to learn from you. Hey man, I want to learn from you. What can I do to learn from you? And so one day he just said, hey, come to Texas, fly down here. I'll show you what to look for in parking, and I'll teach you the business, and we'll split everything down the middle. You go find the assets. I was like, great, let's do that.
Wow.
So that's how it worked out, and it took us a while to get a deal across the finish line. And we really we're just kind of ramping that up right when COVID really took over. So, but in that also, I was investing passively with other people in a variety of asset classes, and then started, so when parking kind of took it on the chin, which parking I think is still a great asset class to be in, and there's still opportunity. It just became the risk, or not the risk, but the work reward became so low that it just, we had to kind of put that on pause. But in that, we've invested in a variety of asset classes at this point. We're very active in multifamily, in self-storage, in boat and RV storage, got some land plays going on. It's just kind of the evolution of what you invest in. But the one thing I wanted to get out of, like Elizabeth said, was that hand-holding, contractor phone calls. Even to this day, if we're going to take down a multifamily asset, I want nothing to do with the remodel. Like, just don't put me on that asset management side of the team, because I don't want to hear about your trip to Sherwin-Williams. I don't.
Just show me the receipts, right?
Or don't show it to,
or don't.
The other team member that's
The bookkeeper. Yeah, let them do that. Awesome. So Sam, thank you so much. I know that Sophie, she also has some more questions that she wants to back into, but before we leave real estate and scaling, because this is one of my favorite things to talk about, obviously, is you guys are involved in a bunch of asset classes. That's something that I usually don't see too much. I mean, there's people that focus on usually one or two, like they'll do multifamily and self-storage, or they'll do raw land, and then they'll do entitlements, or, something like that, right? So can you explain to me like how you guys started branching out into these, and just give us a flavor for, what you might recommend right now in 2021, what passive investors most likely should be looking at? And then who, if wants to get active, what they should be looking at in terms of asset class, in your opinion, since you know all these.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is opinion. So, there's no hard facts.
Of course.
No
Disclaimer.
correct answer. Right. Yeah. What are you laughing about?
Just laughing.
So how did we get involved in all these is I think the initial question. And a lot of it was by passive investing, both with our own money.
Yep.
And then also taking, we're going to take a real left turn here, but taking my parents' retirement accounts, because they had a money manager short is they had a money manager in one of the longest stretches of bull run that we've had. And they had a money manager that had returned 0.6% annually.
Oh man.
Over 14 years.
Oh my gosh. Not even keeping up with inflation.
No,
not at all. Not even close.
No. And my mother is a prodigious saver, not an investor. So she's one of those people that holds on to dollars. She's 75 or 6, and I keep convincing her not to pay down her mortgage. I'm like, Mom, you have a 30-year mortgage at 2%. Don't pay it down. Your kids will take care of it when you're gone. Like, wait. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
I took their money as well and started helping them put it with other sponsors around the country, because obviously they can't invest retirement funds with us in our business. So that also allowed me to diversify across a variety of asset classes. So getting to know those asset classes passively was really great on the front end. I get to see how deals are structured. I get to see what the deal metrics are. I get to kind of understand the mechanics of it. Before then, we went on the active side. And then on the active side, it became really a lot easier, because we've either done fund of funds, which is where we go in and say, okay, we're going to bring X number of dollars to this deal, and we are a limited partner fund. So we are an LLC that invests in the limited partnership, and that's all we are. And that's easy, because then I control my investors. And, there's just not that overlap of, are you a GP? What's your deal? So that's been a great way to get in as fund of funds, and then also have come in as a co-GP with some very experienced other operators. So I can partner alongside people that really know the markets really well. They know the asset classes really well. They've got the team in place to take it down. And then there's, obviously there's some things I can bring to the table on the management side, participate in the phone calls, help make strategic decisions. And so that's another way to scale across a variety of asset classes without having to necessarily have all the pieces of the puzzle in place myself.
Love it. And so what would you recommend for investors today that are either on both the active and passive side, and where you think of all these classes, like maybe the best fit for them?
Yeah. So I love anything that it has less government interaction, intervention, scrutiny. So, I mean, and that just offsets not market risk, but it offsets some of your political risk, eviction moratoriums, things like that make multifamily more challenging. So if you're going to get into multifamily, there's two things you want to know first. One is the team. The second's the market. And the third is the deal, because you can change the team and you can change the market before you invest. Once you invested, you can't change those things, right? You can always work on a deal. So you find those first two things first, and then the third thing, of course, is locating the deal. But if you're looking at the deal, man, find something that is either like we've invested in a low income housing tax credit property this year. Again, I can't change the political climate. I can't change the fact that the government is handing out free rent, but I can change the fact that that rent is then coming to me. So, and I'm not, it's opportunistic. So you investing in low income housing tax credit properties, anything you can do. Of course, there's huge dollars right now flowing into workforce housing. If you can find some key operators that are doing workforce housing, either ground up or, existing workforce housing, that's a great place to be. I mean, in that, even inside of that, I would put mobile home parks. Obviously, those are great places to be because they're just not going anywhere. And we want to get in the deals on that. Love self-storage right now. Love boat and RV storage right now. I mean, boat and RV deliveries are up like 50%, I think, year over year. I mean, it's 2020 was amazing, and 2021's blowing 2020 out of the water. So
who would have known? Wow.
Right. Yeah. Because domestic travel, I mean, everybody's, sticking to their own families traveling, or, yeah. So, with that, then, your compound of that is then RV parks are now, trading at compressed cap rates. So, will that last forever? No, but I think storage is a great place to be because, HOAs prevent a lot of these 30, 40 foot fifth wheels from being stored in your driveway.
Mm-hmm.
So, once people spend 100, 150 grand on something, they got to find a safe, secure place to park it.
Yep.
So,
and the fact that people just like stuff and they just accumulate stuff. And so they're willing to spend the $100-$200 or whatever for the climate controlled facility just to keep, their stuff in a 5x10 unit. So
yep.
We're part of that, but that's because we sold our house and we needed a place to put everything. But anyway, yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth. I'm sorry.
I'll add one more thing to that. It's sometimes it's not the asset class. I think one of the things Sam did not mention that he knows is very important is the people that you invest with. It's the networking. It's taking the time to get to know the people not only people on the ground, but the people you're spending your money with. That can make or break a deal, obviously, even more than the other things. Is this person trustworthy? What's their track record? How did you know them? So, we spent a lot of time, especially at the beginning, networking, going to conferences, going to local, real estate groups, coffee groups, meeting with people just to get a feel for who was doing what, first of all, because it's always intriguing. I think that's one of the things I personally love about real estate is it's so vast.
Yeah.
And you really can invest so many different ways depending on, what your risk reward is, what your personality is, where you live. But that was one thing that I know Sam always brings up is the people involved in vetting those well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We talked about that a little bit, the market and the team, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Could not agree further, especially the emphasis on networking, Elizabeth. So important.
Important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you both for kind of sharing the back end of all this, of everything that's, that has to happen, the education piece, the networking piece, just all the hard work and grind that goes into all of it. I want to delve in because Elizabeth and Sam, you mentioned at the very beginning that you had a pretty rapid recent expansion to your family. And I want to ask you more about that and then what your day-to-day looks like and how you guys keep it all together.
Yeah.
A lot of prayer. Basically, we got officially approved as foster parents in January, August, and then our home study was approved in January after we did our remodel. We after we finished all the classes, we realized we could not do it with the size of our house and bathrooms. We had to have at least 2 bathrooms. So we remodeled the house, which I will never live through another remodel again, but that's a different story.
More trips to Lowe's.
Oh gosh, and hammers. So we get a phone call February 1st about 7:00, and I have 3 beautiful children at my doorstep an hour and a half later. And such began the hardest, best thing that we've ever done. So
yeah, I would say that for very different reasons, 2021 has been. I would have said 2013 was probably the hardest year of my life, but this has probably been the hardest mentally and physically. Just because, and again, love the kids, it's great, but when you're dealing with kids from a neglect, a medical neglect, a trauma background, an abuse background, malnourished, you've got a lot of things that you're dealing with. I think the first 8 days, neither of us slept. I mean, it got to the point literally where it was just like you're hallucinating. You haven't slept in so long. Because, you just can't. Like, kids were up screaming all night. I mean, they just scream. I mean, I would be screaming too, you know, coming from that background, and then also being taken from your home and then dropped off with, you know, 2 random people you don't know and being told
Yeah.
what to do. Like, you do that to me at 40 and I'm going to scream.
Yeah.
Like, but do that to me at 4 and the wheels are going to come off. So yeah, it's been day to day. And honestly, we still haven't kind of come out of that woods because, you know, malnourishment, especially over multiple years, leads to health complication, leads to weakened immune systems, leads to, I mean, the amount of sickness that these kids have had, poor kids, is just off the charts. I mean, if we keep saying, we're like, can we get one week where somebody isn't really sick? That would be great. So we spend a lot of times, you know, you take the brunt of the night shift. Sometimes I pick up the night shift. It just depends on what's going on. And right now, I think we're just holding on. I mean, it's, hey, you know, okay, so you didn't get any sleep. I'll take the kids, especially on a weekend. I'll take the kids till 10. We'll take them to a park. It's a lot of just juggling. Like, you do your best, I'll do my best, and hang on. There's a lot of things I think that get left undone. The number of people, i.e. you, Derek, the number of times I've had to cancel this podcast interview, like, hey man, sorry, everybody was up vomiting all night and I got 0 sleep and you don't want to talk to me this morning.
Yeah. I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to actually pull it back to real estate, I mean, because of our passive investments, I get to sleep in. Because we've prepared to do this, because I have a great manager at my laundromat and great staff. You know, I do have the quote unquote luxury of getting to stay up with a sick child and sleep in. So it's funny how things that we wouldn't have, the natural progression of our real estate investments and our business investments have allowed us to get to this point where we can take care of a 6, 3, and 1-year-old. Otherwise, if we had, I just couldn't do it if I had a traditional W-2 job. They're just, I would have fired myself by now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think if either of us held a traditional job, I would have long been fired. Like, I mean, the number of days where it's just, I just can't, I mean, you do your best. And
so, but on a positive note, the kids are doing great.
yeah,
that's good to hear. Yeah, that's
they're thriving. I mean, they're growing inches a month. They're doing awesome. So we're so pleased with it. It's just the nights get a little bit obviously old. But again, too, you probably ask most parents with small children. Every time I talk to anybody, it's like, it's just hard. You'll get through it. You know, just keep on.
Well, most parents don't get 3 all at once.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big difference. And
Right.
yeah, and thank you both for really sharing that authenticity. And because we want to hear about Sam and Elizabeth, the humans, right? Because of course, this is about real estate investing, but it's not a linear journey for anyone. And there's always stuff behind the scenes. And I think this is what we want our listeners to be able to hear, to really get that, you know, like you said, Elizabeth, you put it, you said it so well that, like, had it not be for this, it wouldn't allow you to do this. Right. So that's
why we do all of this, you guys. Like, that's why we're doing this passive income. That's what, because you get choices, you know, and the choices that you guys make, while it may seem like it's not good for your health right now, for your personal health, but it's going to be great for you guys, because I can tell that you guys light up when you talk about it. And later on, as things smooth out, being able to have this type of choice in this point in your guys' life, this is priceless. You can't put a price on this, but unfortunately society does. And if you had to have a W-2, right, this wouldn't have been possible. You guys wouldn't have entered into the situation. So
no, it would have burned out really quickly and just said that, yeah, we would have just had to bow out. I mean, the kids would have had to go somewhere else. To just, it wouldn't have been possible. And I like what you were saying there, Sophie, about it not being a linear journey. And that's something I've had to have a lot of grace with myself with, you know, as a type A, as someone that plans out, as someone that has a by this date, I will have made X number of dollars in 2021. By this date, I will have closed this number of units. And then you get to those dates and you're like, nope, not just, we're going to go ahead and we're going to shorten the goalposts and move them back. And having to do that, I think I've rewritten my yearly goals 4 or 5 times this year, which is like,
wow.
It's not disheartening. It's just reality. It's like, all right, you know what? We are taken care of. We are provided for. I am doing, and this again goes back to the 2013, don't panic. You know, wasn't that Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? It's like, what's on the front cover? The Guide to the Galaxy, don't panic, right? I'm letting my inner nerd out here.
Awesome.
But it's true. And so I've had to do that this year quite a bit, because just, you know, my goals professionally just have not been able to be achieved. And that's okay, because we are, like I said earlier, we're provided for, we are, we're good. We're good.
Yep.
Such great wisdom and advice.
Yeah, you're right where you guys are supposed to be. And everyone's on this journey together, and there's ups and downs, there's changes. And the only thing that is constant is that there's constant change. That's what, there's something like that. There's that quote out there. Anyways.
And it's fun. We get to do it together. So that makes it enjoyable. And it's been fun to learn how to work together. I mean, that's, over the last 11 years,
yeah,
all the businesses that we've done, it's just, this is your role and you do it. And this is your role and you do it. And as long as our roles don't overlap, which if they do, you can always tell, we do really well.
That's good. That's good. Well, thank you guys. So we're actually getting close to the time where we need to start wrapping up the call. But we've had a blast with you guys on here, and thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom. But before we go and let you guys tell the audience how they can find out more about you, we have a rapid round. It is 5 questions that we ask all of our guests. Okay. And they're meant to be pretty quick answers, about 10 seconds each. And we want to hear from each one of you guys on these questions. Okay. So whenever you're ready, we're going to get started.
Let's do it.
All right. So question number 1, what book has had the biggest impact on you and why? And you cannot mention Rich Dad, Poor Dad or the Bible.
I'm a fairly voracious reader, or at least I was prior to this year. I'm actually been going through, I'm involved with an institute in Auburn, Alabama called the Mises Institute. And one of my favorite books that they have is called Economics in One Lesson. It's a very simple read about how the economy works.
Cool.
How government interference does not help the economy. So I would highly recommend that one. It's a very simple read, but it's with profound insights to how the world works.
Excellent.
The economic world works.
Good. I would say that there was probably a book early on. It's called Bruchko, and it's about this guy that goes into the what was it, the Amazon jungle? Where was it? He goes into the Amazon and encounters these native tribes, and it was all about his journey in encountering these native tribes, figuring out how to get to know them without being killed, because they were very violent tribes. And it was just a fascinating book as a kid that I read. And I would say second to that story would be The River of Doubt, about Teddy Roosevelt going again. That was through the Amazon as well, which was written early 19. I mean, it was a crazy book about early 1900s about a past president of the United States getting on a boat for like 6 months and exploring the Amazon jungle, and they're making hand maps of this place, and it's just like, man,
that's cool.
Wow.
Those were when men were like men and doing stuff. Like, that's awesome. Yeah, there's not a chance in the world that a president of the U.S. is going to go on a Amazonian jungle trek and map out a river now. So
the frontier.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
So I think both of those are pretty.
Can you spell that book, Sam? I'm curious now.
Yeah, it's Bruchko. It's about a Christian missionary named Bruce Olson that goes out and tries to figure out who these people were out in the middle of the jungle, and his story is just harrowing. Like,
wow. Number 2, if people wanted to emulate your success, what is the first actionable thing that they could do to follow in your footsteps?
Do it, and do it now. If you have an idea, do it, and don't delay, and also just remove fear. Like, what's the saying that failure weighs ounces but regret weighs tons, something like that. I'm probably butchering it, but something to that effect.
And I would agree with Sam on that one. You really can only learn by doing. You can't learn by reading someone. You can learn some by reading someone else's stories. You can prepare, but you really can't prepare until you actually get into it, because every deal's different. Every child's different. I mean, life is just, you can read about marriage, but it's not the same thing until you get married. You have to get into it to actually learn through it. And you are going to make mistakes, but that's just life and lessons. And hopefully next time you don't make those same mistakes.
Great wisdom. Number 3, what small thing do most people not know about you?
I probably have more professional licenses than anybody I know.
That's cool.
How many? Just curious.
Like everything from a pilot's license to my commodities trading license to my Series 6, 63. I have IT certifications. The list just yeah. Because all these different things over time, I've thought, oh, that'd be fun. And then they require some sort of professional certification. And the next thing I know, I've got another one. I'm like, Good grief. So I've got piles of unused professional licenses. And so FINRA knows more about me than,
I bet.
yeah. Anyway, so which none of those are active, by the way. So don't come audit me for FINRA because I don't hang my license.
Mine is really random. About 5.5 years ago, I read an article in the Wall Street Journal about this man who ran at least 1 mile every day. He was ending up his 40th year. And I'm an avid runner. So I decided, you know what? I'll try that. And I'm now on my 5.5 years of running a continuous mile every day. Wow. So that's just fairly random. And I try not to make it completely annoying to Sam, but some days it can be really annoying. Let's get my mile in.
So that's inspiring. Great. I'm going to do that too.
That's cool.
It's funny. It's just 10 minutes a day. I mean, I waste 10 minutes doing a lot of things and you just
do it.
That's so cool.
All right. Number 4, how do you guys like to unwind and restore your creative juices individually?
I realized today that this is the first time we've done anything together in a month. So.
At least. I haven't sat down with you without kids. Yeah. Anyway, so 10 seconds. Here we go. What do I like to do? I love to go to the mountains. Any chance I can get in the mountains and just stare off into nowhere for vast periods of time is amazing. And in the last 6 months, I can't even do anything. So it's not uncommon to find me at 4:30 in the morning drinking a cup of coffee, looking at pictures of mountains.
That's so cool.
Going, if I just close my eyes, I could be there. Yeah, true statement. True statement.
Cool.
I love running, listening to audiobooks. I can run for hours listening to a good audiobook.
That's awesome. Great. Last one, number 5. What is your guys' favorite family vacation spot?
I think our trip to South Africa 3-4 years ago.
Heard that a lot.
Was incredible.
Nice.
Was incredible. And yeah, that was, and then for all the right reasons, like the mix was just perfect. But I think anywhere we're going to go, again, anywhere domestically, like if we're actually going to go on vacation, it's either going to be in the mountains or probably in the mountains.
I lived in Durban, South Africa, which is right on the coast for 2 years getting my master's. And so we got to go back there and introduce Sam to friends and places that I lived. And then we spent the rest of the time just traveling across the country. It's a beautiful, beautiful, magical place. Excellent.
Cool, guys. Well, thank you so much for opening up to us and sharing all of your wisdom and all of these great things about what you guys do and what's going on in your lives right now. You can look back in this in 5 years and just laugh, I think.
Or maybe tomorrow.
Or maybe tomorrow, exactly. So before we go, can Sam, Elizabeth, can you guys explain to our listeners how people can find out more about you and if they want to work with you, how they can do that?
Yeah, sure. On the real estate side, you can go to brickeninvestmentgroup.com. That's BRICKEN investmentgroup.com. That's a great place to connect with me. You can email me, sam@brickeninvestmentgroup.com. There's some free downloads we have for real estate. One of the free downloads we have is how to vet a deal in 10 minutes. So either you're a passive or an active investor. There's a guide I put together that I still use today that helps me just say, hey, is this something we want to pursue further? You can find that at brickeninvestmentgroup.com/checklist. And that's how you can get a hold of me directly. If you want to find more about laundromats.
My laundromat email is sudslaundrymemphis, spelled exactly like sudslaundrymemphis@gmail.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys, Sam, Elizabeth. Thank you guys for your time. I know how busy you are and how many times we've had to reschedule this. And I'm so glad we got a chance to do this.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah. We love sitting down and talking with you guys. You guys have a lot of wisdom to share with individuals and folks who are just starting out and maybe even already experienced on mindset. So thank you for everything. And for all the listeners out there, thank you for participating and enjoying some of this content. If you've listened all the way to the end, wherever you're listening to this, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the thumbs up button wherever you're listening to this, and also engage with us. Give us some feedback. Let us know how we're doing. We want to always improve, and you cannot give us negative feedback without us saying thank you for that. So please go ahead and do that. And so we're looking for all types of constructive criticisms or good jobs here and there. And the more comments we get, the further we go up the list in the algorithm and to appease the algorithm gods so that we can get exposure to more individuals and get our message out there to more individuals just like you who want to learn from amazing people like Sam and Elizabeth. So that being said, Sam, Elizabeth, thank you guys so much for coming on. We had a blast.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Day, thank you. And this is Derek.
And this is Sophie.
And we are signing off for today. Take care, everyone.